Master Salesforce LWC with Lightning Combo Box and Data Table. Essential components for building dynamic data-driven application. Welcome everyone. In today's session, we are going to talk about standard LWC component. And this is part 2. So without wasting any time further, let's proceed with the video. So guys, in the previous video that was standard LWC component part 1, we have discussed about few of the standard LWC components like lightning input. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you to go and watch that video now and then continue with this video. Now lightning combo box. Lightning combo box is another component that we can use in LWC, and it is an input element that provides multiple options to you and you can select any one of the given option. It is also known as drop down in the terminology of Salesforce. Now the result of the selection is stored as the value of this specific input component. Now this specific component has plenty of attributes like drop down alignment, which specifies the drop down list is aligned with or anchored to the selection field. By default, it is aligned with the selection field at the top left, so the list opens down, but if you will select bottom left, so the list will open up. You can also set it to auto, so it will automatically decide or determine where to open the list based on the space available. Options is another attribute, and it is the required attribute of combo box, so you cannot miss giving this attribute, and it accepts a list of options that will be available for selection. Just like you specified the list of options to the lightning dual list box that we covered up in the previous video. Spinner active is another attribute that you can use, and if it is present, a spinner is displayed below menu items to indicate loading activity. So in case if the number of values or the number of options that you are passing to the combo box is too much and it takes a lot of time to load that, in such scenario you can keep the spinner as active so that until unless the values are loaded, a small spinner will show over there indicating that the value is still loading. So now let's quickly hit to the VS Code and create a Lightning Web component with Lightning Combo Box. So guys, here we are on our VS Code, and you can see I have created an LWC with name standard components 2. In the meta file of this LWC, we have to expose it, so I'm setting it to true, and we also need to set the target over here, so I'm setting the targets, and inside that I will have an target attribute, and to that target attribute I will pass Lightning app page. Once the meta file is ready, we need to create the component, or we need to use the Lightning Combo Box inside the HTML. So here inside this template, I am going to use Lightning Combo Box. Now this Lightning Combo Box can accept different attributes, and out of all those attributes, one of the initial attribute that we need to provide is options. And to this options attribute, we will provide an option. Now this option will be an array. Now where to create this specific array? To create this specific array, we will move on to the JS part of it, and inside this class, I will create an array of options. Now I can give any name to this. Let me give it the name as options itself, and this will be an array. Now it won't be a normal array, it will be an array of objects, and where we will provide two things. One is the label and the other is the value. Now label is something that will be shown as an option, and value will be something that will be returned if that option is selected. So here I am providing few options as in form of languages. So as you can see, here I have added 4 different objects with label and value as their property. You can see English, Science, Mathematics and Computer I passed as label, and English, Science, Maths and Computer in lowercase I passed as value respectively. Now this same array I will use here in the options attribute. So definitely it's a variable, we will not write it within double inverted comma. Instead of that, we will use pair of braces, and where I will specify options. Now we need to specify label to this as well. So I am going to use a label attribute over here and will mention as choose language and save it. Now it's time to deploy it. So I am right clicking on deploy this source to org. Now once deployed successfully, we will see this Lightning Web component in our org, which will contain the combo box. So here we are in our org, and let me open our custom app page. Now I am going to include my LWC on this app page itself. Now once the page is visible, click on the gear icon, right click on edit page and open in new tab. So this specific app page will open in Lightning App Builder. Now here I will include our created Lightning Web component on the page so that we can see the output of it. Now on the left side you can see standard, you can collapse it, and below that you will have the custom LWCs. We will include the standard components too over here. So here is your LWC. Let me click on save. Let's come back to the app page and refresh it. So here you can see the combo box is here, and if I click on it, I can see all the options that are in sentence case, or in other words, the first letter is capital. That means all of them is label. You can choose any one of them as an option. Now let's see some other attributes that we can include on the combo box. So now the attribute that I'm going to show is drop down alignment. So I will choose drop down alignment, and the value that I will choose is bottom left. So bottom hyphen left, save, and let me deploy again. Now I will come on the page, right click on it, click on inspect, because I want to empty the cache and hard reload. So now I can right click on the refresh and I can click on empty cache and hard reload. And now if you will click on the combo box, it will open to the top. Now by default value is top left, but you can also set it to auto. Now in case if you set it to auto, then it will decide where it has to open according to the available space on the page. Now the last attribute, that is spinner active, I can't show you right now because the number of components has to be huge, but definitely I will show you later down the line in the same playlist. Lightning data table. Now Lightning data table displays tabular data. So it actually displays data in tabular form, that is in form of rows and columns, and it renders over there. It is basically one of the best way to show collection of data together in form of table. Now Lightning data table is not supported on mobile device. Tables can be populated during initialization using the data columns and key field attributes. So first of all, you can't use Lightning data table for mobile devices. So if you are having app that will open only on mobile, so better not to use Lightning data table over there because that won't be visible on the mobile devices. And while creating a table, you need to initialize the data to it using the data column and key field attributes. These are very essential attributes that we use with our Lightning data table. Now the key field attributes is required for correct table behavior. Now the key field attribute is quite important. Why so? Because among all the values that are available in the table, this field value is basically used to uniquely identify individual record or individual row in the data table. Now the value we use for key field is case sensitive and must match what's in our data array. So if we use key field as ID, make sure the ID you provide in the data array uses the ID and not ID. That means the key field attribute, whatsoever key field name you provide to the key field attribute, the name of the field should exactly match the value you provide to the key field attribute. Even the case should match, otherwise it won't work. Now let's talk about some important attributes of Lightning data table. Columns attribute. Columns attribute basically used to define the fields that we want to show over there in the data table. It is an array of objects again, and here the object will have three properties like label, field name and type. The default type is always text, but in case if you want to use URL or any other type, definitely you can change the type over there. Data is another attribute that we use, and it accepts an array of data that is to be displayed on the data table. The hide checkbox column is basically used to hide the checkbox of data table, because by default data table has a checkbox for each and every row over there to perform multiple selection of records. Hide table header is used to hide the header of the table itself, that is nothing but the name of the field. Key field attribute, I already told you, it is basically used to identify a specific record or a specific row. So the field that we will use as a key field among all the fields of the data table will be mentioned here in the key field attribute. Row number offset is basically used to determine the row number, the starting row number of the table. By default it is set to 0, and hence the first row will be 1. But you can change the value of row number offset and it will start the numbering of the rows from that number onwards. And of course, show row number column, if this is present, then there will be a first column over there in the data table that will show the row number of individual records. And in case if we set false to it, then definitely that row number will not be shown, no matter whatsoever offset you set with the row number offset. So now let's quickly hit to the VS Code and create a lightning data table for our specific LWC. So guys, here we are, and let me quickly add a BR over here that will add a line break, and after that I will add a lightning data table. Now to this lightning data table, definitely I need to pass the columns, the data and the key field, which are the required attributes, right? So let me provide data. I will provide an array over here, then columns. Definitely I will provide field names over here, and finally I will have key field, and I will provide the key field name over here. Now the value of data and columns attribute will be provided as in form of variables, that would be nothing but array, and key fields we can pass as static values. Of course we can use a variable for this as well. Now let me quickly go to the JS part, and here I need to create first of all the columns. Now in the columns array, every object will have at least three things, that is field name, label or type. When I am providing label and field name only, I am not providing the type. For example, I am providing few field names over here, then I will talk about them. So here you can see I have added few values to this array, few objects with label and field name property. Now label is having ID, name, age, gender and place. Field name is also having the same but in lowercase. Now this field name will be utilized when we will enter values or rows to this specific table. But let me provide these columns over there. So here in the columns I will use the columns variable, and in the field name I will specify ID. Now data definitely I will provide in some time, but let me just deploy this over there. And here let me open the inspect, right click on the refresh, empty cache and hard reload, and here you can see the data table. It is having ID, name, age, gender and place, and no records are there. Now I am going to include the records over here. Now how to do that? Now to include the records, again I need an array, again an array of objects. So here I am having data. So now in the data column over here, we need to provide objects. Okay. Now all these objects will have two properties. One, the field name, and another, the value. So inside one object, we will provide all the field names along with the value. So basically we will provide the field name, suppose as ID, and as the value of that, we will provide some value over here. Similarly, we will provide the next field name as name and the value over here. So all the field names we will provide and a corresponding value as one object. Similarly, again the field name will repeat and the values will change. So let me quickly enter three rows over here. So as you can see, I have added the data over here. So all the field names that I have specified in the columns are actually the property, and the value that I want to show under that field is shown as the value, or is entered as the value. Now because I mentioned text, because I haven't mentioned any type to any of the column, by default it will be text. So all the values I have passed as in single quotes, as in form of a string or a text. I have entered three objects over here, so definitely there will be three rows. And this data that I have created, this data variable, will be mentioned here as the data. I have also entered the hide checkbox column. Earlier it was showing a checkbox over there, right? I have mentioned row number offset, and I have mentioned show row number column as well. So let me just remove these three attributes first. I will use it later, and let me show you the data only. So let me just deploy this, and on the org I will right click on the refresh and empty cache and hard reload. So here you can see all the data is shown as different records. Even the checkbox column is shown over there. Now I will hide this checkbox column. I will start row number with a different number itself, that is from 11, and I will show the row number as well. So I will add those three attributes. Here you can see. Let me deploy again. Now here I will right click, empty cache and hard reload, and you can clearly see now the checkbox is gone. The row number is started from 11. So these are some key attributes, some important attributes that you can use with the data table. Definitely there are some certain other attributes as well, which we will learn later down the line. If I talk about combo box and data table, the values that we specified to them are through the variables. So definitely the values of these variables can be assigned dynamically by taking the values from Apex, which we are going to learn later in this course. So that marks the end of this specific session. See you soon in the next session. Till then, thank you and take care.